Welcome back to the deep dive. You've given us an extraordinary stack of sources today, and we are locking onto a galactic conflict that's really defined not by overwhelming armies, but by an absolute moral collapse.
Indeed, we are plunging into the deepest recesses of a war being fought in, the dark corners of the mind. A place where loyalty is currency and betrayal is, well, it's the highest form of strategy.
Right.
Our materials really center around these key political, military, and force-sensitive figures, which gives us this multi-layered view of the rising Corellian Confederation conflict.
And we're not just tracking plot points here, we're tracking psychological trauma. Our mission in this deep dive is to pull out those interconnected threads of radical moral erosion, the terrifying efficiency of information warfare, and the devastating personal choices being made by a family at war with itself.
Exactly.
We want to show you how manipulation, both political and metaphysical, is the true engine of this entire conflict.
It's a study in extremes. You have the slow, calculated descent of a hero into absolute shadow, and that's juxtaposed with the desperate, almost improvised survival of his family.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. We have to start with the tragic center point of the entire saga, the descent of Jacen Solo.
Jacen Solo, now bearing the title Colonel Solo of the Galactic Alliance Guard, the Gagji, he's occupying this terrifying paradox.
A paradox? How so?
Well, he wields immense political and military power, right?
Yeah.
But his internal life is one of profound instability and moral rot. This is a man who is systematically dismantling his own ethical framework, piece by piece.
And the sources waste no time showing us the price of that power. He's plagued by these profound mental disturbances, specifically nightmares or, as he thinks, maybe true force endings.
Right, and they involve the most unforgivable act possible: patricide and matricide. He is dreaming or being shown scenarios where he literally attempts to kill his own parents, Han and Leia.
And what's so striking here isn't just the content of the dreams, which is obviously horrifying, it's his reaction to them.
Exactly. He wakes up grappling with his lack of horror or remorse over these acts. He is actively searching inside himself for a sense of guilt, and he's finding nothing. This confirms that the moral confusion we saw creeping in earlier is now hardened into this dangerous form of detached rationalism.
That moral absence is being fueled by just acute exhaustion. He checks his chrono at one point and notes he's had, at most, maybe 10 minutes of sleep.
In the preceding 15 standard minutes, yeah. He is operating under extreme sleep deprivation, which, when you couple that with these force sendings, it just explains his heightened instability and his ruthlessness.
And you see that lack of rest immediately translate into this visible paranoia. After one of the sendings, where in his mind his mother slams him through the viewport of his office, what does he do?
He uses a desktop control to close the blast shutters over his view. It's so symbolic. He's closing himself off from the galaxy outside, protecting himself not just from potential threats, but from the vulnerability that these force visions are exposing in him.
This internal struggle immediately dictates his external actions. And that leads us to one of the most chillingly detailed moments of calculated cruelty in the sources: his interaction with the captured smuggler, Aaron Allston.
Oh, yeah. The sources reveal Jacen's disdain for her right away. He captures her entire smuggler fleet, and when he addresses her, it's not as a worthy opponent. He calls her a temporary hireling and their traitor for selling information via his own aide, Ebak.
He just sees her as nothing.
Absolutely nothing. He deems her unworthy of respect because he sees her goals, just acquiring credits, as utterly shallow.
But the cruelty isn't just about, throwing her in a prison cell. It's so personal. Levin expects to be released, maybe fine, but she thinks she's keeping her highly customized, very fast ship, the Breathe My Jets.
But Jacen, he changes the terms entirely. He confiscates her beloved vessel for the gag and replaces it with the ultimate insult, the dilapidated ancient Duracrid, which he mockingly calls a brick with wings.
And the name is where the calculated malice really comes through.
Yes. Jacen openly connects Levin's attachment to her freighter with his own father, Han Solo's, lifelong devotion to the Millennium Falcon, a ship Jacen has now fired upon.
So he sees that attachment as a weakness.
A weakness to be exploited and punished. By naming her replacement ship Duracrud, he's reducing something sacred to a piece of junk. He's mocking the very idea of emotional attachment to anything.
And he doesn't just give her a terrible ship, he ensures it's a death sentence.
He orders Ebak to secretly sabotage the Duracrid's hyperdrive so it will fail catastrophically after one jump. And Ebek points out the obvious consequence. As a smuggler, her first jump is going to be far away from any civilized world. She'll be marooned. She'll likely die.
And Jacen's response is the perfect distillation of his twisted new philosophy.
It really is. He rationalizes this near-certain death sentence by saying it will make her a better person for the experience. More polite, probably. This is that detached sociopathy, this belief that pain and isolation are necessary tools for self-improvement.
It's a core teaching of Vergere, isn't it?
Manifested as outright evil, yes. He sees himself as this kind of benevolent tyrant, enforcing moral development through suffering.
The sources show us that this ruthlessness, it's not going unnoticed. Shortly after his victory at the Battle of Hapes, Jacen meets with Admiral Wedge Antilles of Corellia.
And Wedge, he's a seasoned, pretty cynical war veteran. He immediately cuts right to the heart of the matter. He accuses Jacen of exploiting his military successes purely to fuel his brilliant political career.
So Wedge is speaking for the old guard here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's concerned that Jacen is using the war not for security, but for his own self-aggrandizement.
And Jacen, predictably, he retaliates. He brings up Wedge's supposed role in that Hapes coup attempt.
An accusation Wedge flatly denies, clarifying he had no part in the planning. But Wedge delivers the really stinging observation that forces Jacen to reflect. He wonders if Jacen has simply lost his adolescent sense of humor, or if this transformation marks something much darker, specifically fanaticism.
And that word fanaticism, it acts like a mirror Jacen is forced to look into.
It does. This leads directly to a crucial section of Jacen's internal analysis. He starts tracing his moral shift all the way back to the cataclysmic end of the Yuuzhan Vong War.
It wasn't the war itself, though, was it? It was a specific consequence.
The death of his younger brother, Anakin. Jacen reflects that Anakin's death ended that feeling they had both shared of being invincible, invulnerable, immortal. When Anakin died, the humor died too. And with it, any room for casual moral ambiguity.
And that vacuum was filled by the philosophy of Vergere.
The sources describe her as this complex figure, sometimes Jedi, sometimes Sith, sometimes neither. And her core teaching was the necessity to distance himself from everything, for perspective. This separation, Jacen believes, is the key to clear, efficient decision-making, unclouded by emotional weakness.
And it's chilling how he applies this. He actually rationalizes his decision to fire on the Millennium Falcon, a deliberate attempt to kill his parents, Zek, Ben, and Jaina. He even accepts that he was factually wrong about their immediate involvement in the coup.
But his conclusion is where the rationalization becomes terrifyingly complete. He determines that even if the facts were wrong, the decision to fire was still the correct decision based on what you then knew.
So the intent was correct, even if the data was bad.
In his mind, yes. He believes the willingness to sacrifice family for the greater good is a sign of progress, not failure. He views his own cruelty as just. Still learning, he's cementing this dangerous philosophical tutelage he received.
And while Jacen is spiraling, his rapid rise is causing genuine political distress back at the Jedi Temple.
Absolutely. The Jedi Council Luke, Mara, and Kip Duran, they're meeting with high-level government officials, Chief Omos and Admiral Niathal. The political concern is the rapid elevation of Jacen to Jedi Master while he simultaneously holds this powerful JAG position.
Niathal's worried about the centralization of power.
She articulates the fear that this results in a distressing loss of personal authority for the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. They're losing control.
And Kip Duran offers a really fascinating philosophical concept here, something he calls the Taraski.
The Taraski. It's a scavenger larva from the Kessel mines, a bug that feeds exclusively on dead flesh, or that which cannot survive anyway. Kip uses this analogy to argue for the necessity of radical, even distasteful ideas being scrutinized.
So Jacen is the bug, eating away at bad policies.
That's his argument, that Jacen's intense and challenging proposals act as a kind of Taraski for the government, testing their assumptions and eating away at weak or stagnant policies. It's like having a brutal free press or a court jester in government.
But this is where Luke provides the counterpoint about what true mastery really is.
Right. Luke reflects on how his own capabilities have changed over time. He notes that as a raw, powerful teenager, he was capable of using the Force for these incredible feats of strength, like pulling a spacecraft out of a gas giant's gravity well. But he doubts he could do that now.
Despite being more powerful.
Despite his increased mastery, yes. And the reason is crucial. Luke explains that his greater wisdom and perspective now impose moral constraints on him. He knows his intent in performing such a massive, raw display of power might not be purely good. and therefore his connection to the Force is limited by his own moral judgment.
Which is the exact opposite of Jacen.
The perfect opposite. If you connect this to Jacen, Luke is defining mastery as restraint and moral clarity. Jacen, on the other hand, is defining mastery as unconstrained perspective achieved by deliberately shedding emotional attachment. This is the central philosophical schism driving the galaxy's conflict.
So while Jacen is embracing this philosophy of separation, his family, the very targets of his separation, are forced into immediate, desperate action. Han and Leia, having survived his attack on the Falcon, are now essentially fugitives.
They need major help, and they turn to the galaxy's most reliable rogue, Lando Calrissian. They arrive at Lando's old, slightly non-cost-efficient repair station, and the state of the Millennium Falcon tells you the whole story.
It's in bad shape.
Terrible. It's severely damaged, suffering from a rhythmic clanking that indicates deep internal trauma. And there's this massive gaping hole where the topside turret used to be.
It's a moment of rare good fortune for them that Lando is doing so well. The sources really emphasize his success. He's rich, happily married to Tendra, and his company, Tendrando Arms, is thriving.
And he immediately agrees to take the Falcon, promising to make it better than new, which, as you say, is a significant undertaking given the extent of the damage.
But fixing the Falcon will take time, and Han and Leia can't just hang around. They have two immediate problems. They need fast, anonymous transport and a way to get through the heavily monitored and dangerous Corellian exclusion zone.
Lando, of course, steps up with typical Calrissian flair. He provides the Love Commander, a 50-meter Sorsub 2400 luxury yacht.
Which he won in a Sabat game, naturally.
Naturally, and its registration is still tied to the flamboyant former owner, which gives them an instant cover identity. Biscat of Durman.
The hollow entertainment mogul.
Hollow entertainment mogul and pleasure seeker of the corporate sector. Lando assumes this persona completely. He disguises himself elaborately with a magnificent long white wig and beard. He looks every inch the part.
Han, however, gets the short end of the disguise stick.
He really does. He needs significant makeup to cover his resemblance to his late infamous cousin, Jacen Solo. So he has to apply extensive makeup to give his skin this yellowish hue and wear a spiky black false mustache.
You can just picture Han Solo being utterly miserable under that itchy fake facial hair.
Absolutely. He's forced into the role of the reluctant crew, the pilot and navigator. And Leia, ever the political operator, she chooses to diminish herself, wearing padding and makeup designed to make her look unexceptional and tucking away her distinctive hair.
Their elaborate disguise is immediately put to the test when they enter the most heavily patrolled corridor of the exclusion zone and get stopped by a Galactic Alliance frigate, the Spinnerfish.
The tension here is just palpable. Lando, fully committed to his role, successfully deflects suspicion. He babbles about gambling, luxury, and entertainment, carefully avoiding any talk of war or smuggling. He explicitly denies carrying any aid, which throws the lieutenant off balance.
The lieutenant is suspicious, but he's maybe reluctant to interrupt a known corporate high roller.
Right, so he ultimately chooses to board and inspect. And this highlights just how vulnerable the Solos are, even in disguise. Leia, using a subtle force signal, is able to alert Han and Lando the moment the inspection crew has passed them, emphasizing how much their survival depends on this rapid, silent teamwork.
Their next meeting is critical. They meet with Tepler, a former Corsac officer.
And he provides the core intelligence that really justifies their fugitive status. Admiral Wedge Antilles was forced out of command because he actively refused to support the dirty war efforts Jacen was championing. Wedge is a true casualty of Jacen's political rise.
But the meeting is violently interrupted by Corsac troopers at the bar. They're discovered,
forcing a desperate, immediate escape. And Leia's resourcefulness here is just phenomenal. She uses her lightsaber not as a weapon at first, but as an escape tool, quickly cutting a perfect circle in the floor to create a trapdoor.
They drop into a dark, narrow corridor below. Han's hard landing is a reminder that he's still physically recovering.
They're pursued, and Han has to use a precision blaster shot to melt Tepler's tumbler to destroy the man's fingerprints, covering their tracks even in the middle of all that chaos.
But what they didn't realize is that this chaos was actually part of a planned rescue.
Right. Wedge, along with Jedi Master Corran Horn and his daughter, Myri, staged this rapid extraction operation, intercepting them using X-Wings and Mirax Horn's yacht, the Pulsar Skate.
And this is where you see the exiled family rapidly forming a potent little resistance cell.
It is. And Lando, seeing Myri, has this small, reflective moment, noting how much she's grown since he last saw her as a child, a reminder of how much time is passing in this conflict.
The escape is not subtle. The combined group aboard the Love Commander and the Pulsar Skate successfully engage and cripple a pursuing Corellian corvette.
They concentrate their fire on the engines, causing enough damage to force the heavy warship to lose altitude and turn away from the conflict. A small but significant victory.
Their next move is strategic brilliance. They rendezvous with Booster Tarek aboard the Errant Venture.
And this is no ordinary ship. It's a massive Imperial Star Destroyer, normally the Virulence, that's been converted into a gigantic high-end casino and shopping complex.
And Leia, with her political instincts, immediately recognizes the strategic genius of this location.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive intelligence resource. Thousands of restless military personnel from both the GA and the Confederacy gather there to gamble and drink. And inevitably, drunk soldiers talk freely and leak vital information.
And this intelligence leads them to a crucial and potentially dangerous conclusion.
During their debriefing, the group determines that the Corellian conflict isn't being driven by some external puppet master, as they initially feared. Instead, they realize it is the inevitable conclusion of their respective political directions following the turbulence around Jacen Solo's death.
So the war is organic.
It's organic, fueled by political polarization, which makes it far harder to dismantle than a simple Sith plot.
So while the older generation is struggling for tactical survival, we pivot to the younger generation and the agonizing crucible faced by Ben Skywalker. Jacen uses his nearly 14-year-old apprentice as an instrument of his darkness.
He sends him on a highly secretive mission, and this mission is designed specifically to test Ben's willingness to commit morally abhorrent acts in the name of political necessity. The objective is to acquire the Amulet of Kalara from the Tendrando arms offices on Almania.
A location with ties back to Lando, which is interesting.
It is. And Jacen ensures Ben understands the world-altering stakes. He warns that if activated by a Force-sensitive person who knows its secrets, the amulet grants absolute invisibility in the Force. It masks even the active use of power. Any Jedi, including Luke, would be completely vulnerable.
And Jacen's command is the ultimate test.
It is. If anyone else obtains the amulet, Ben must assume they are a powerful dark Jedi and, quote, eliminate him before he eliminates you. Ben immediately notes that this sounds exactly like murder. Jacen is intentionally pushing him into that territory with necessary moral compromise.
Ben is resourceful, though. He first successfully infiltrates the Jedi Temple using an old-school method, a laundry chute, after getting some coded help from an apprentice named Siha Dorvold. But once he gets to Almania, his carefully laid plans immediately fall apart.
He finds his mission account is completely empty. He is stranded and hungry, and this forces him into his first moral dilemma, stealing.
Which is pretty ironic given Han Solo's past.
Very. But Ben isn't stealing for petty greed. He justifies stealing a cred card from a passenger's portfolio as an emergency, aiming to make the wrong as small as he possibly could. He's clinging to a moral code even as he's being forced to violate it.
Using stealth and a successful, if exhausting, force projection to deceive the desk worker, Gilthor, he gets into the 215th floor of the Crossroads business habitat. But the amulet is already gone.
He finds the display case open and the amulet replaced by this hand-lettered note from Thaskus of Ziost, claiming to spare their lives and return the amulet to where it belongs.
And Ben, showing excellent spycraft under pressure, quickly replaces the empty space with his own fake replica.
Right, to maintain the illusion and delay any local investigation. It's very quick thinking.
Ben immediately realizes he has to steal transportation to follow the only lead he has, Ziost, the ancient Sith homeworld.
And the theft of the Waywing starfighter at Drua Spaceport is convoluted, really highlighting his desperation. He creates a fake work order to get the port personnel to charge the computer, then uses telekinesis, a significant expenditure of his Force energy, to physically remove his R2 unit, Shaker, from its housing.
That detail seems important. He's isolating himself.
He is. Shaker is a source of comfort and aid, and removing him shows Ben's determination to rely only on the mission.
He flies to Ziost, follows the trail of the thief, and finds Fascus's transport wrecked and burned, clearly strafed by a TIE fighter.
And he confronts Fascus, who's suffering from a grievous, penetrating stomach wound. Fascus is not the master thief Ben expected. He's just a courier, hired by a Bothon named Deer to deliver the amulet to a cave.
And he was wounded trying to save his daughter.
His daughter, Kiara, a girl about 6. This introduces a devastating human element Ben did not anticipate at all. Kiara is surprisingly strong in the Force, described as a flickering candle compared to her dying father.
Ben quickly grabs the Amulet of Kalara, which immediately affects him.
It reeks of dark side energy, almost palpable sense of creepy happiness. He takes fast kills as weapons, preparing for whatever's next.
And this brings us to the ultimate moral pivot point for Ben. He is under the influence of the amulet and the dark energy of Ziost.
He initially attempts to abandon Kiara and Shaker, reasoning that the mission is far more important than one small girl's life. And the voices in his head, likely Sith whispers channeled by the amulet, begin to torment him, urging him towards this dark rationalization, whispering horrifying things like, "Eat girl," and "grow strong."
That detail is so bizarre and terrifying. It really drives home the alien, deeply corrupting nature of the dark side influence on Ziost. It's not just philosophical, it's primal, a consuming evil.
The dilemma is resolved through violence. They are attacked by these large, twisted nocturnal predators called Necks. They look deceptively like furry toys, but are powerful, dangerous beasts.
And Shaker, the droid he tried to abandon, saves the girl.
Proving its loyalty, Shaker bravely uses its arc welder arm to save Kiara, losing the arm in the process. Ben, forced into this primal combat, uses Vasquez's blaster pistol, aiming solely through the Force to drive them off.
But it's Kiara's reaction that breaks his rationalization.
It is. Her unwavering 6-year-old belief that the TIE fighter meant to kill her, and her accusing Ben that he wanted it when he tried to leave her, that is the moment of truth.
He's forced to confront the pure empathy he was trying to suppress.
He admits it out loud. I was wrong. And he commits to taking Kiara with him. This decision, to value one small, vulnerable life over the successful completion of a mission ordained by his master for the greater good, is Ben's definitive rejection of Jacen's philosophy.
But his resourcefulness is immediately challenged again. The TIE pilot who strafed Vasquez, Keldon, is ordered to return and finish the job.
Ben has to think fast. He uses the Force to drop massive stones from an ancient citadel wall, damaging the TIE fighter and forcing its retreat. But he is still stranded on the Sith homeworld,
Driven by the dark side voices.
which are now projecting images of a mysterious woman. He follows that influence and finds a hidden, spherical Sith vehicle buried beneath the floor of a corridor.
And he literally commands this ancient artifact to launch into space, escaping Ziost. He succeeded in the mission, he got the amulet, but at the cost of his moral innocence. And with the new burden of protecting a girl, he was explicitly instructed to abandon.
Ben gained perspective, yes, but he chose empathy over separation. This directly contrasts with Jacen's choices, showing you these two different paths for the Force-sensitive youth in this conflict.
Jacen's descent and Ben's trial are both happening within a much larger, more coordinated conflict. A shadow war orchestrated by the Sith lady Lumiya. This is where the true engine of information warfare is revealed.
Lumiya is operating from an asteroid base, recovering from grievous wounds inflicted by Luke. The sources note she seems to accept that he will always manage to hurt her when they clash.
And due to her injuries and her robotic limbs, she projects a realistic Force phantom of herself for communications. A highly sophisticated technique Jacen himself is striving to master.
Her manipulation is a masterclass in psychological and strategic deception. First, she targets the Bothan military leader Corellian, using the alias of a beautiful Hepan woman to establish herself as a credible, seemingly neutral intelligence source.
And then she leaks the Jacen document. This is the critical piece of strategic disinformation.
Absolutely. The files detail genuine, decades-old, and highly secret Galactic Alliance plans Operation Blue Plug, designed to conquer Commoner. By framing this as current intelligence from the Galactic Alliance Guard, she validates the Confederation's deepest fears about GA aggression. It gives the secessionists a moral high ground for fighting.
But she doesn't stop at political deception. She goes for soul-destroying psychological manipulation using a horrifying technique.
The spectral parasite.
Right.
This is a complex Sith technique where Lumiya doesn't just project a thought or a ghost. She affixes herself as a spectral parasite to a sleeping Quarren mind at a hospital, drawing energy from that living being to create a physical, sensory-deceiving phantom of Matrick Klauskin's dead wife, Adela.
It's an act of profound violation. She's harnessing the life force of one person to deceive another.
And the phantom Adela targets Matrick Klauskin, a former GA commander who was hospitalized for mental care after being removed from command at Corellia. The phantom convinces him he was lied to and betrayed by the GA, twisting his existing mental fragility. Klauskin accepts the lie, convinced he is not dreaming when he sees the door to his room open, and agrees to become an agent for Commoner.
And this sophisticated manipulation yields immediate, deadly results.
It does. Klauskin, now promoted and serving as an admiral in the Galactic Alliance Guard, boards the GA frigate Shamanar at Bothawi.
He executes his mission ruthlessly. He tricks Captain Burke into entering the small, rarely used auxiliary bridge by suggesting they run a quick, private battle simulation.
And once Bjork is isolated, Clauskin shoots and kills him, firing multiple times, justifying the murder by claiming he had to deal with supposed Bothan traitors. It's cold-blooded.
Klauskin then immediately contacts the Bothan Corellian Lumiya's other target, confirming that he has successfully neutralized the Shamanar and ensured that the Bothan fleet's movement goes undetected.
Lumiya's web of information warfare and psychological corruption has directly led to a crucial military catastrophe for the GA, all without her firing a single shot.
The fallout from the Jacen document leak forces the GA to scramble. General Tycho Selchuk confirms to Admiral Niathal and Jacen that the document is genuine. It's the forgotten Operation Blue Plug.
And the damage is done. Whether it's current or not, the plan reveals intent. The leak is traced back to a specific security failure. Automated backup code had been maliciously replaced to send older files and ordnance inventories to an offsite location. The initial access point used a JAG passcode, Joseph's organization.
And Jacen is furious when he demands the specific passcode and finds it listed as unassigned in GAG records.
Which suggests the breach was either by a deep mole who covered their tracks perfectly, or that the security structure of the JAG is so fragmented that the manipulation is virtually untraceable. Jacen, the master of efficiency, is completely stymied by systemic chaos.
Meanwhile, the Corellian Confederation is growing, cementing its position politically and industrially, confirming the strategic effectiveness of Lumiya's information warfare.
Following the initial conflict, the Confederation expands rapidly. It absorbs critical industrial hubs like Fondor for its vital orbital shipyards, Bespin for its Tabana gas production, and Edumar for its ammunitions industry. This territorial and industrial expansion shifts the balance of power dramatically.
And the sources reiterate a key point. The war isn't full-scale yet.
Not yet. The military conflict remains sporadic and is largely fought in the news feeds, so the propaganda war is dominating. But the Confederation is using this time wisely, ramping up ship production to epic levels, preparing for the inevitable global conflict.
All these separate threads, Jacen's victims, the exiled family, the Sith agents, they all get drawn together in this massive, chaotic convergence aboard the Casino Star Destroyer, the errant venture.
We circle back to Aaron Allston, the betrayed smuggler. Stranded on the sabotage Duracrud, she's found by Alima Roar, the vengeful Dark Jedi Twi'lek, and it turns out Alima had actually watched Jacen's agents sabotage the ship.
And she brought parts to fix it.
She did. She had parts to fix the ship. This establishes an immediate, powerful bond between the two, a shared enemy in Jacen Solo. Levent, now driven by revenge, takes Alima to the errant venture.
And she gives Alima crucial intelligence, confirming that the Solos and Skywalkers are hiding in the private, secured areas of the gigantic complex.
Alima's goal is purely destructive. She wants to kill Hanamara to bring balance to the universe, which is this twisted justification for murder. And the irony here is so rich.
How so?
She uses technology implemented by the GA to track her. JAG Phil's recently established Twi'lek recognition software, which identifies her based on her specific physical injuries, including her distinctive crippled foot. She exploits the very security system designed to catch her to locate her prey.
So while Alema is closing in, Jacen and Lumiya, along with GA forces, are preparing a trap of their own. A planned strike against a Confederation election ceremony at a resort station orbiting Jalato VIII.
Right. They're anticipating high-level attendees from the Hapes Consortium Heritage Council. But Jacen walks right into a counter-trap. The meeting is led by a Confederation admiral who looks remarkably like Tycho Selchuk, a deliberate psychological ploy.
And the GA forces are immediately ambushed by a deadly mine grid.
Jacen is deliberately spotlighted and identified as the GA agent, inciting the Corellians present to seek immediate violent revenge. This is a PR disaster that's turned into a high-risk extraction zone.
And this chaos draws in the Jedi. Luke and Mara arrive first, geared in black jumpsuits and X-Wing pilot gear, determined to extract Jacen, despite everything.
Han and Leia arrive moments later, further complicating the battle. And here is where we see Jacen's total detachment. He flees the immediate conflict, valuing the need to analyze the major GA Confederation battle unfolding more than the immediate danger to his parents.
Luke even observes later that this reveals Jacen's cold-hearted priority. Strategy overrides filial duty.
The scene just devolves into these rapid, desperate three-way duels. Luke engages Lumiya, who wields her devastating light whip, a unique and dangerous Sith weapon.
And Lumiya insists she isn't hostile towards Luke, but she uses the moment for maximum psychological effect.
She offers Luke a physical touch or handshake, claiming she has only peaceful intent. It's deeply unsettling given their history. But the real taunt comes next.
What's that?
She claims she could have killed Ben instead of letting him flee from Ziost. It demonstrates that her intelligence network is current and that she allowed Ben to live, implying a manipulation or future use for the young Skywalker. You have to wonder if it was pure emotional motivation from a Sith.
On the other side of the chamber, Leia confronts Ali Marar, shouting, "Mine," taking responsibility for the threat.
Alima attempts a quick assassination, using a poisoned dart fired from a blowgun. But Leia's quick thinking and mastery of the Force save her life. She uses the Force to deflect the dart, shooting it back into Alima's mouth, terrifying the Twi'lek Dark Jedi.
Alima immediately spits out the dart, realizes she is overwhelmed by the unified strength of the Solos and Skywalkers, and flees.
And in her panicked escape, Alima spots the Duracrod in the holding area, that brick she had fixed. She seizes it and commits one final, devastating act of chaos, flying the freighter straight into the resort station dome,
Causing a catastrophic massive decompression, collapsing the ancient transparisteel dome and forcing Luke, Mara, Han, and Leia to seal the door and escape quickly. The chaos confirms the unpredictable and destructively personal nature of these confrontations.
Yet, amid all this destruction, there was a small, unexpected note of redemption for the smuggler.
For Euron Levin.
Luminant, having been abandoned by Jacen and betrayed by Alima, is surprisingly philosophical about her losses. And Han recognizes her value and her warning. He pays her off with a freshly reconditioned Gallifrey Yards medium transport, a solid, reliable ship.
So she's back in business, funded by the very family Jacen sought to destroy. It confirms that loyalty in this family is always rewarded.
We return to Jacen aboard the Anakin Solo in hyperspace for the final confrontation with Lumiya, who is there to discuss the Gelator 8th disaster.
And Lumiya, the ultimate strategist, completely dismisses the ambush as a failure.
She does. She assures Jacen that his public popularity will only grow because the GEA will spin the event as a victory against a treacherous Confederation ambush. The failure was tactical, but the real victory lies in the strategic insight gained.
And she then introduces the true pinnacle of Sith ability, the master technique that supersedes mere battle meditation.
She describes it as the capacity to sense and coordinate all battlefield forces through mind and will simultaneously. This isn't just focusing troops, it's being the living embodiment of the war machine.
This immense power, she confirms, can only be accessed with the assumption of the title Master of the Sith. It requires a level of cold, total detachment that Jacen has not yet achieved.
Lumiya confirms that despite her own injuries preventing her from wielding this power fully, she can teach him. But there is a final, non-negotiable price. The sacrifice of love and taking a Sith name.
And Jacen asks her directly who he must sacrifice.
Lumiya's answer is chillingly vague, yet specific, designed to force internal reckoning. One you love, one who will leave a void in your heart.
This is the critical moment. Jacen is forced to look inward, choosing between his mother or father or both. He tries desperately to access deep, primal feelings of love for his parents.
But all he finds is pain and raw anger. The sources detail that this pain stems entirely from childhood abandonment, the fact that Han and Leia left him and his siblings to surrogate parents for weeks or months at a time while they pursued their political careers and adventures. He feels betrayed, not loved.
Lumiya sees this.
She reads his emotional barrenness and realizes he is fundamentally unready. He doesn't even know himself well enough to confirm whether he truly loves them or not. So she instructs him, "Find yourself, Jacen. Then make your sacrifice and take your Sith name. I'll be waiting."
This delay doesn't stop his descent, though. It merely refocuses it. Jacen's final internal monologue summarizes his total moral erosion and his adoption of pure utilitarian evil.
He concludes that regardless of whether he loves them, regardless of the emotional void eliminating them is necessary, it prevents retaliation, and, in his calculated view, makes the galaxy better off without them. Matricide and patricide are reduced to simple political and utilitarian calculations. His final cold thought is a farewell. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad.
The moral separation is now complete. This deep dive has shown us that this galactic conflict is being fought not with brute force, but with the insidious power of philosophical manipulation and moral rationalization. We've seen the pervasive nature of this darkness, from Lumiya's use of decades-old intelligence to turn a former admiral into a murderer, to Jacen's systematic erosion of his own empathy.
And we have witnessed the staggering cost of this conflict on the younger generation. Jacen chose the path of detachment, twisting Verge's lessons into a justification for cruelty. In stark contrast, Ben Skywalker, barely 14, was forced into moral compromise, but ultimately pulled back from the brink of the dark side when confronted by the undeniable immediate need for empathy.
He chose to save Kiara over the mission.
He did. Meanwhile, the exiled family, Han, Leia, Luke, and Mara, demonstrate that their capacity for love and teamwork makes them the most potent force in the galaxy. They're a chaotic, improvised resistance cell operating outside the official framework, which the Sith cannot easily predict or control.
So if we return to that core philosophical disagreement, Jacen started his journey believing that only separation offers perspective, a tool he used to rationalize distance, calculation, and ultimately sacrifice.
But the question remains, what is the true value of perspective gained without empathy? We saw that for Jacen, it became nothing more than a flawless logical pathway to fanaticism and murder.
So when a hero discards their humanity to save the galaxy, are they truly saving anything worthwhile? That is something worth mulling over, the difference between clear-eyed strategy and cold-hearted fanaticism, until our next deep dive.
Until then, stay well informed.
And stay curious.